the punctual should always be benefiting from being on time.
I see a mistake on that picture. There's no IBS logo. Saxelia, Yatta, Maurevia.
IBS doesn't go to WFS. This is from WFS in Dublin a couple of years ago.
Financial Symposium, okay.
Yes, Financial Symposium. So normally we are your partners there. So as long as you see Moreva, it's okay.
Okay.
As Celia, you see, because they're usually sponsoring heavily, and then there, of course, there's a Yatta. You can see me in a corner on your right-hand side as well, so it's a real picture and one of mine's.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a big honor. It's now 7:15 Central European Time, and it's the mega event of this day. It's a big honor to welcome all of you for the virtual Happy Hour 3.0 and the country presentation of Mauritius and Montenegro. So, Ladenka, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So I started with the picture of industry event because the usual way how people start talking to me, or the usual introductory line, is kind of a joke that I'm going to show here. You know, everything starts officially. Where do you work at? I say I work at Mauriva. So if you are in one of these events, you know who Mauriva is. If you are in some other events, then it's interesting also to explain what the company does. So the next question is usually, where are you based? And here comes the first surprising answer, because I usually say in Mauritius. And then there's, of course, the reaction. Wow. So usually after that, the small talks goes on, and I don't look as a typical Mauritian, so it's pretty much visible on me that I'm not coming from Mauritius, that I'm from somewhere else. Hence the next question, where are you coming from? And then I say I'm from Montenegro. So not a lot of people know where Montenegro is, but when they put it in the map, and when they actually figure out which part of the Europe and what is it famous for, then it's, wow, lucky you. And I say, indeed, two really beautiful countries. So welcome to the presentation of both. I will try to do my best to present them both. So as stated, I normally live in Mauritius. I'm in Montenegro for the time being due to COVID, of course, because everything during this year revolves about that virus. So you learn a little bit more facts about both of the countries, the country I come from and the country I live in currently. If you don't know exactly where Montenegro is, so it's exactly here in Europe, marked ex-Yugoslavia. Pretty much everyone knows that country, just opposite to Italy. And of course, Mauritius is in Indian Ocean, very lovely place, really long, far away. You can stop me at any time if you have some questions related to presentation, and I'm just wondering what's happening.
Yeah, how many cubic meters are in the Indian Ocean?
Oh, I don't know. I did not check that. That's a good one, though. I didn't. At one moment of time, I was looking at the area, water area for both countries, and of course, Mauritius has more. But I didn't include that information. So why are people usually very much wowed by both countries? It's because of the beauties. And for the moment, I'm just going to give you a taste of it. If my laptop agrees, you're going to see some pictures, and then I'm going to explain for each country of some of these places what are there. So I'm starting with Montenegro, of course, and then you have Mauritius. So a lot of people have this country on their traveling agenda because it's a really famous place to go away and stay for a vacation and recharge. So for this reason, I'm really lucky to be able to spend my time in both of these countries. So I'm going to start with Montenegro and a few things that you may not know. So one of them, the first picture that you saw, is this amazing bay. And this is actually
I still see the same picture. Do the others say a different picture? I see still the exposition area.
No, still the same picture of the conference.
Yeah.
Oh no! And I went through a couple of slides in the meanwhile. So I'm going to try to reshare them. Sorry about this.
Yeah. Now we see things about Montenegro.
Things that you have. I don't know. It's probably because it's rather big presentation, and then. So the first thing, if you can see my screen now.
Things about Montenegro you have maybe missed.
Okay, and then it's blank.
Then it's blank, exactly. That's what we are seeing.
Okay, Daniel, how do you deal with the technical problems?
No, usually you press the thing and then it should go. So
yeah,
No,
but I did.
It's a bit tricky. The best is actually when you try to present, unpresent and try to present again, and then pick the window right at the left, which says desktop, and then basically.
Which I did. Kind of, but it didn't work.
But then usually it's no problem with the deck. And then it starts basically, we see your computer, and then you dive into PowerPoint, and then you just start the presentation. Usually it works.
So I did that. Can you see the presentation?
No.
not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let me start again. Do you see it now? Without
pain in the neck sometimes.
Maybe the presentation is still in the Black Sea because we see a black screen, and then maybe.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what is it, because I did share my desktop. And you should see now a random industry meeting with the small talk and the maps. And now you should see some pictures from Montenegro. Is that the case?
No. It's still the black screen.
Just opening now the presentation on my side, and then
let's try.
I try to help you.
Yeah.
So you can see the screen?
Oh, yes.
Daniel, perfect.
So you can go to also, I don't know, presentation mode maybe, because the pictures will appear one by one in any case, as there is some overlay there. So if you go to screen number 2, for example.
I'm now at both countries make it routinely on various the most beautiful country lists.
You are on the second. So no, we are looking at the first.
Yes,
The
we are
weather
seeing the first one.
in Germany, I'm having an ice cream.
So can you see the screen?
Yeah.
The first one.
Just put in the presentation mode. Then
I am in the presentation mode.
Yeah, but still.
I don't know. It's in presentation mode. So
I think
Daniel, did you share the presentation or did you share the desktop?
I shared the desktop with everyone.
Oh, okay.
How many wines you had?
Patient.
3.
We
Yeah.
have technical
I share my. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Something is coming, but it's still black.
Beautiful desktop.
Yeah.
Yes. Now it has come. Perfect.
So
maybe the animation don't work. Maybe that's the problem.
So which one shall I go to? This one?
You can start from the second one. It's okay. So again, they should appear one by one, but it doesn't matter. So the point of this slide is just to give you a hint of what the country looks like. First Montenegro, and then if you go on the next slide, You will see the same for Mauritius. And I can share the whole presentation after because there are some nice pictures in it. As you can see, it's some places in Mauritius that I like with some activities that are really nice. Now it seems to be working. What
Now
did
it's
you do
working?
now? Yeah.
Is it now working or not? Huh?
Yep.
Yeah, now it's working, even with animation and everything. Now
Yeah,
that's how it should be.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I have one glass of wine now finally.
No, I thought 2, right?
Okay. So press. You're gonna do a lot of clicking, Daniel, or you're gonna explain me how it works. So
I know,
maybe I
but
can.
my fingers hurting already.
Yes, that's okay. So there's Mauritius. And after this slide that will follow, will tell you more information about each countries and maybe some facts that you have not heard. So I'm starting with Montenegro. And the first thing that you will see there, what I was talking about, is this lovely bay, Boka Kotorska Bay. Maybe Daniel can click on some pictures for you to show. It's the most southern European fjord. So in case if you thought that all fjords are in Norway, no, we got one.
And is this also where they have shot this James Bond movie in this region?
No, for James Bond, it's a really funny story because it was actually shot in Czechoslovakia. So Czechoslovakia plays Montenegro in the in the
Really?
movie.
Oh.
Yes.
You mean on Her Majesty's Secret Service? No, how is it called?
Yep.
Where they steal this coding thing in Istanbul. Is that what you mean?
Yep. It's not
Okay.
Montenegro.
Okay.
So you go to movies, you watch 007 telling you that you are in Montenegro, and actually it was shot in Czechoslovakia.
Let's all the try to go to Montenegro to see the scenery of James Bond, and they will never find because they have to go to Czechoslovakia. Crazy.
No, but they will find some really beautiful scenery. I don't know whose idea was it. It was back in 2006, and apparently there was some politics as usual for the Balkans, so they went to Czechoslovakia, which is a pity because you'll see scenery, but there are quite a few other shows that give you a good feeling of Montenegro.
You are talking about Casino Royale, aren't you?
Yes.
But I'm talking about the very, very old James Bond because that was filmed actually in Montenegro. Well, anyway.
Yes, that's one of the first one. Yes, that one was. But that area is slightly more to the south from this place. Slightly more. It's Budva. It's called Budva. It's also a seaside quite close by.
Yeah, this
So
looks very beautiful. Yeah, this picture.
What you are looking at is Boka Bay, and to be more precise, it's part of the bay where Kotor is located. Kotor is UNESCO heritage, an old city that was built by Austro-Hungarians while they were ruling in the region. Very, very beautiful and really stayed like in the medieval time. A lot of cruise ships are making a stop right here for let's say a day trip or a couple of day trips depending what you want to do. This is a view from the mountain which is located just above it. So I stated this whole bay is a fjord, which is not something that a lot of people know up front about Montenegro. If you can click on it, you will see Kotor also from a different perspective, because there is a really nice path that you can go above the city and also admire the mountains and the sea below. And on the last picture, what you can see is one artificial island, and there is a story for it because it was built by inhabitants of the city of the Perast, which lies just across of it. So a lot of people in last century were sailors, so they would go out, leave their families, and sail. Some of them never came back. So there was a habit of people going to the sea, to the kind of central part of this same bay, and leaving stones. And after years and years of this tradition, they built an island, and on that island is this church, where normally people with the families whose beloved ones are on sea go to pray for their safety. So it's an old kind of medieval story, but also quite an interesting one. This is the sole city, the city Perast, that is across to this small island. Is the only city where you cannot go by car. So all transportation is either electric bicycles or you go by foot, but it's really worthwhile. So you go down next to the sea and you can spend the day and of course enjoy some really, really nice food.
I have to
So-
admit, we earlier discussed where we are doing the in-person meeting of this virtual happy hour, and earlier it was suggested Mauritius or South Africa. I'm more inclined now for Montenegro.
I think it's much closer to you, given the whole situation, and it's really beautiful for Europeans who did not have chance to visit it. It's kind of close by, and it's a new destination, so to speak, since due to the whole lovely historical events in my country, we were enclosed for some time, and the country itself does really bear a lot of natural beauty. So the next one, yet another UNESCO heritage site, and this time it's a river. So some of you may have seen this picture or a similar picture on your desktops, maybe a month ago if you are using Windows 10, because this place was a kind of spot on. This canyon of this river is the deepest canyon in Europe and the second deepest in the world. So there's only one which is actually deeper than it. This bridge.
Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
or what is it?
Sorry?
A Grand Canyon, but just
Yes.
the deep.
Yeah,
Oh, that is the Grand Canyon. Okay.
it is a Grand Canyon. So the second one is actually Canyon of River Tara.
Wow.
And this bridge is considered to be the highest one in Europe. Really nice for bungee jumping if you want to do that. Again, very nice scenery. And the river is also
do
quite.
base jumping.
Yeah.
You could also do base jumping if it's high enough.
Yeah, you can.
Base jumping is with a paraglide.
Yeah.
Or for the Swiss community amongst us, who, as we remember from the Swiss country presentation, tends to have the highest suicide rate, that's also an opportunity.
Yeah, well,
If you want to have a scenic exit from this planet.
so far, this
COVID-19
bridge was not known for that, and I hope it remains like that. Yeah, we had back in the time when I was working for Montenegro Airlines, one of our frequent flyers, an older gentleman, went to this bungee jumping when it was open originally, and he got on camera, and he was pale because he really thought it was last of the life that he saw. And nothing was wrong with him, but it was really exhilarating and an adrenaline ride for him, definitely. So you can go to the next picture. It just gives you some additional views and also a proposed activity, because you can go rafting down this lovely river, and this is an experience on its own. It's cold for majority of people. It's way too cold for me now since I'm used to warm waters in Mauritius, but it's still really, really nice thing to do. If you want to spend the weekend in the nature, you will be really refreshed after that. So the next one on the line is lovely lake. And again, this one is the second largest in Europe. It's not whole in Montenegro, but about 2/3 of it is in Montenegro and 1/3 is in Albania. This place is considered to be most pictured place in Montenegro. It's actually on a old road between two capitals, also quite nearby to the village where my family comes from, and it's actually a meander of the river joining the lake. It's called Rijeka Crnovice. Yeah.
But how do you do this? You are not such a large country, and you have the deepest canyon in Europe. You have the second largest lake in Europe. How do you do all this?
I'm not going even to mention what we do in sports. I didn't even put sports up because that would make you depressed. You know, the country which does have 2 Olympic pools and water polo champion. Once or twice, that's fine. You can go to the next picture because there are a couple of more here. These are different views also of the lake. So as you can imagine, since it's a really big lake, there's a lot of fish in it, and there's also places where people kind of breed fish. This is one of these fishermen villages. There were plenty more in last century because people were doing exactly that, making some villages around the coastal line and just breed fish. Below you can see one of the bridges, also quite famous one. It's in Rijeka Crnojević. It was built by one of the kings in Montenegro. And the last but not the least, they're just for fun because you can see some water lilies here, and this is something also that you can find in Mauritius as well. Again, one thing that is worthwhile doing if you are there, take a trip on it.
But the funny thing was the picture just looked like actually a lake, not a lake, but a river running.
It's a kind
a
of juncture
lake?
of the. It's a river juncture, but it's kind of meandering. At that moment, it's already a lake.
Oh,
And
okay.
yes,
Get it.
it looks like a river, but not quite, because at that moment it's already kind of joined.
Okay.
And you're gonna see much more water in Montenegro. This is just to recuperate for the fact that Mauritius is surrounding about the water, and it's something that is not, how can I put the news to me? Because in Montenegro, if you do come, you will see that wherever you go, you will see some kind of water, be it that it is a lake or a river or a sea, but you don't get a feeling that you are far away in the continent like that. So there's another of lovely lakes here. This one is glacial. This is the biggest of the glacial mountain lakes in Montenegro. Unfortunately, this one is kind of endangered because the part of it that it is protecting the water not to go down to the mountain is kind of eroding. So even some specialists in water management are not sure that this lake will last for next couple of years. The forest around it is also quite famous because it's also a part of one of the oldest forests within the continent. That part. It's about maybe 2 kilometers around the lake. Again, really nice walk to do. Then we have another mountain, because Montenegro is a mountain land, sea and mountain. This one was considered to be the highest mountain until latest day, because apparently there is another one which is higher for about 10 meters. So currently the people who are doing hiking and are in love with this particular mountain are stating this is the only one which is completely within Montenegro borders, because the other one is on the border between Montenegro and Albania. This is called Durmitor. It's one of national parks. There are 7 different national parks in Montenegro. So again, if you are in to come here or to organize a meeting, that's perfectly fine for me. It's pure nature and beauty that you are going to get and to see here. On this specific mountain, there are 18 other lakes. And then this is something what probably you, Daniel, and Marco will remember, that I mentioned in one of previous. Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Statistic.
So you will see that immediately when you arrive in Montenegro. If you arrive in capital, you're gonna fly over it, and this doesn't even show half of it. So yeah. Montenegro is a big producer of wine. and we are told that our wine is really good, even if underestimated in general, comparing to French or Italian or Spanish wine.
And which grape is the most common one from Montenegro?
So it's called Vranec. It's I don't know exact the English word for that, but this type of grape doesn't grow anywhere else but in Montenegro, so it's really ours.
By the way, I think you also have not read the fine print. All the presenters, they have to send the delicious things to the audience. So I hope you have sent some bottles of wine from Montenegro to all the people here. No?
No, I didn't, but I can bring some wine on first occasion or can send it. For the moment, I'm not sure that sending anything out of this country works, but it can stay as my requirement whenever we meet again to bring some wine with me. I'm fine with it. So another mountain, and this one is really important
Yes,
for.
Ladenka, I must admit, there are certain things that make me super curious, and that made me very curious. So, Vranec, or I don't know if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
I was just found it on Wikipedia. Is a variety of grapes and a red wine from Montenegro. It is protected as intellectual property.
It is.
And Montenegrin geographical indication of origin since 1977.
Yep.
There you go. Grapes are intellectual property. No, last weekend I had way too much intellectual property.
There you go. I think that's a thing that you did not expect to learn during this meeting, but that's fine. I know that
Life and the world is full of wonders, and this is why I love these sessions.
Yeah, always surprising. To be honest, it's a surprise for me as well. I know that the soil doesn't grow anywhere else and that it is protected. So it's you can't take out the seeds out of the country. That's completely forbidden, and nobody really grows it but us. And the wine is really great as well. So yeah, you will see. But I didn't know that we managed to call it intellectual property. That's a news to me as well. That's really nice. Any other comments or questions?
For sure, but not on this topic.
Okay. Okay, the thing that I'm showing is yet another mountain. As I stated, there are a lot of mountains in Montenegro. This one is called Lovćen, very famous for various different reasons and historically very important for Montenegrins. So what you can see in these pictures is a mausoleum, and it's also a place where one of the rulers of Montenegro from medieval time lies now. He was really famous for the politics in Montenegro and also a really famous writer. His name is Petar Petrović Njegoš, and his wish was after he died that he wanted to be buried exactly on top of this mountain. So if you are lazy as we are, there's a mountain here that you can drive all the way to the top and have beautiful views. So if you don't want to break a sweat, it's okay. The only problem with this one is there are about 418, I think, stairs to go exactly to the top of it. On the picture on your left side, you can see two big statues, or the name for that is caryatids. These were built specifically for this mausoleum. They are tall about 3 meters, if I remember correctly. They were extremely heavy, and at the time when this thing was built, they needed to bring them at the top of mountain, which was not easy. They were not able to do that with helicopters because they were too heavy, but they needed to pull them with, I don't know, kind of elevator through this tunnel where all of these stairs are. And at the time when this was built, there wasn't a single insurance company that wanted to actually ensure that they won't break during this process. It's one of the really famous sculptors from Croatia who did this building at the end and these statues, and his name is Ivan Meštrović. Now it's a really nice place to go. Again, you get really nice views. If you are lucky, you can even see Italy from there on a clear day. You see the vast of mountains, which are much lower, and they seem to be blue. So this is also the reason why the blue is one of the colors that is most related to Montenegro, and why Montenegro sometimes is referred to be a mountain sea. So if you click again, you will see the guy that I was talking about, and this mausoleum was built in 1997, if I remember correctly, but don't take me good for the years. Originally, there was a chapel where he resided, and you see that chapel here. And then we go to Mauritius, which is quite equally interesting place. So the first thing and my definitely most favorite thing, all my friends from Mauritius would tell you now, yeah, of course you started with Le Morne. This is what they call a mountain, and I'm teasing them that it's a hill. It's about 800 meters tall. It's in southern west part of Mauritius. And in front of it, you have a small illusion, well, not small illusion, but an illusion of the waterfall within the ocean. Mauritius is based on a coral reef. So this is where this reef is kind of broken. So it looks from the air like the water is falling in, even if it is not the case.
It looks like
really,
it looks like a bathtub that's draining.
Yeah, exactly.
Is
Just
that-
like a waterfall.
Is that where you have the Dina Robin or Dina Robin Hotel and St. Regis on this island? On
Yeah.
Le Morne?
Yeah, it's Lux and Ryu. Here in this picture, you see Ryu on, let's say, right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, it's Lux. There are quite a few, many luxurious hotels are around here. When it comes to hotel, this is the part of the island where the most of these most luxurious St. Regis as well are based. Really nice beaches, as you can see here. And contrary to the fact that this is a tropical island, I'm not going to tell a lot about the beaches because I think that's something that you would expect. And there are plenty more things to see there. Beaches goes as, how can I say, a bonus to all the rest of it. And of course, since Mauritius is on a coral reef, as I stated, they are white, sandy, from the corals, really nice to relax. So this is the fact that I really like about Mauritius, because okay, during the week it's living like everywhere else. You need to go to work, you need to do your chores, you need to mind your usual day-to-day tasks, but during the weekends you feel like you're on vacation. It's enough to go to the beach. It's relaxing enough. Like the previous mountain for Montenegro, this one is also historically really important to Mauritius. Mauritius in past century had slavery on. And at the time when the slavery was finally finished, there was quite large group of slaves that ran and that hid at this mountain. And when the people came to look for them to tell them that finally slavery was abolished, they didn't believe because that was too good to be true. But since they escaped from their masters, they didn't want to come back even at the cost of life. So they chose, instead of going back to their families and continue their lives, they chose to jump out of this mountain. So in Mauritius, there is Abolition Day when they celebrate the day when finally the slavery was abolished. And on this mountain, you can see a small kind of cross that denotes the place where these people jumped from. And it's one of the really good places to go for hiking if you want to have a really nice view over a lovely Indian Ocean. This is also the place where you could go. You see also on that picture a kite lagoon. and that's one of the best places in the world for kite surfing. So officially listed, the place where there's always wind, and it's really, really nice and easy to go. This is exactly where I also took some of my kiting lessons. So the next one that was really fascinating to me when I saw it the first time, it's Chamarel, or what they call it, seven-colored earth. So Mauritius is made out of the volcanic earth. So here at this place, what they explained to me, what happened is in different period of time, this earth got cold and it remained in different colors. So the place looks completely like outer of the world. It is really this colorful, as you can see in these pictures. It's in the middle of the one of their national parks, and as a side bonus, you can see this lovely waterfall, about 200 meters high, Chamarel waterfall. Also a really nice place to spend the day and reconnect with the nature. So this is another thing which is in common between these two countries, and it's not the sole one. So national tree of Mauritius, flamboyant. Again, not sure whether if any of you have been to Mauritius, did pay attention of this lovely tree. It's blossoming in November until maybe mid of January. It's red, as you can see, and it looks magnificent against the sugarcane or against the sea that you can see. If you take a look at the Mauritian flag, the red on it, it's actually representing this tree. So you have green for the sugarcane fields, you have yellow for sun, blue for the sea, and the red is coming from this tree, and magnificent look of the island when it is blooming, because it's everything red. And then, if you are not willing to lie on the beach all day, there are actually things that you can see and learn how it is done in Mauritius. They have a couple of really big tea plantations, so they produce black and green tea. And this is one of the factories that does that, and you can go there and take a look how the whole process is doing. So they are one also of the major exporters of the tea, in case that you didn't know it. And for the moment, they are trying to position themselves even on against the China, because for some variety of the tea that they produced locally, they claim that the blend is even better of Chinese green tea. I'm not that much of a tea person, but for me it was still interesting to know, and it's interesting to see what it looks like. And then, of course, we are in tropical place. They produce rum with all the sugar cane that they have on the island. There are 3 rummeries that produce sugarcane out of, they produce rum out of sugarcane juice. Chamarel is one of them, and this is what you see on your screens. All of them are offering also tours, and you can see the whole process. They will explain to you how they do it, when do they pick the sugarcane to do it, how the juice is done, how they ferment it, and how do you end up with a really nice bottle of rum. This is also a drink that is underrated, because normally when we speak about rum, we more talk about Caribbean rum or I don't know, Cuba or Jamaican. Mauritius has also very, very quality rum, even if it is not as famous as the rest of them are. Fun thing to do, by the way, if you are there.
And you know why I always wanted to go to Mauritius? It started with rum.
Yeah.
When I was 19, when I finished high school, I worked in a hotel in Germany. It was a German chain that had a hotel in Mauritius, and one night I was working at the front desk that night. The guy who was in charge, who was the director of the hotel in Mauritius, came for some internal meetings and checked in, and he had a couple of bottles of white rum from Mauritius, and it was late at night. There was no guests checking in, and he started serving me that rum from Mauritius and telling me about Mauritius. And since I was at the age of 19, that's how I probably first heard about Mauritius and how I got excited about the country.
My funny story about Mauritius, and by the way, your boss is good and you apparently had the opportunity to taste it. I'm gonna ask you, did he make the tea punch for you?
No, it was just so the guy was German. He was just the managing director of the hotel that was in Mauritius, at which I believe it's on the north western coast. It's called Maritime. It's a German.
Oh yeah. There are actually two. One is on western coast and one is on east coast.
Okay, so back then, that was in 1990, I believe. There was just one, and he came for internal meetings, and I didn't know him. He just checked in, and then I saw when he registered that he was staff, and so I started chatting with him, and then he said he's the managing director of the hotel in Mauritius, and he so happened to have a bottle of rum, and would you want to drink? And then we started talking, and he started serving me that rum. And I must admit, he served it straight and with Coke. So there wasn't much about this is such a fantastic Mauritian rum, but it still got me hooked about the island and the fact that rum also comes from that part of the world. And yeah.
So the thing with the rum, they have this local drink. It's called tea punch, like from French petit, mixture of French and English punch, because it's really strong when you drink it. What goes in it is lime, sugar, and of course a lot of rum. So this is normally what they will serve as a drink during a cocktail party or during happy hour. Of course, if you are there, you should definitely try it. It's of course made with the local rum and the sugar that you can see here. Interesting fact about Mauritius is they are kind of trying to convert their economy to more rely on tourism. Because maybe 20 years ago they were more focused on sugarcane, and you will see a lot of sugarcane fields in whole island. There was about 30 sugar mills throughout the island, and now it's down to 3 or 4, and they started to repurpose the land, which for me it's kind of sad. For me it's kind of pity, but then okay, it's kind of their choice. What you saw in these pictures that Daniel just removed now is one of these mills. It's near to Castle La Bourdonnais, one of the colonial houses that managed to survive all the history in Mauritius, and it's a sugar factory. So they still produce a lot of sugar. It's high probability that the dark sugar that you are buying wherever you are now is coming from Mauritius. So even in Montenegro, when I buy it, it's really pure Mauritian yellow sugar. So this is one of the places where you can go, have a really nice lunch, and learn how they do what they do and what it takes for that sugar to come to your place, all the way from this lovely island in the Indian Ocean. And by the way, my story for Mauritius was also quite funny, Marco. I mean, I learned about it when I was maybe 14, and because I had a friend in high school that was talking all the time that her life wish is to go and live in Mauritius. So the whole my class in high school knew about the island. We, of course, needed to look it up at the time because she was completely fascinated about it. I quite wasn't, but then I met my current boss while I was working in Montenegro Airlines when he came for one of the implementation, and at the end, eventually, I ended up living there. So it's as you know, a tropical island. For me, one of the things that I'm missing is say variety of the museums, but it's also still far of not having some. And this one is particularly interesting because it contains this penny blue stamp, which is very rare. There are only a few around the world, so it's very, very valuable. And the funny fact for you, Daniel, these stamps are also available in one of museums in Berlin.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I learned that in the process looking them up because I knew that there are only a few pieces left. They were printed for one of the occasion. I'm not exactly sure which one, but there's only a few left worldwide. So another pair is in Berlin and another pair is in Stockholm. So if you're also into stamp marks, this is
I
an
was when
interesting
I
place.
was younger, but I gave it up because I don't need a woman anymore. I'm married already. Usually you show your stamps in order to win a woman. I did this some years back, so that's why I gave up my stamps.
Okay. Pity.
What does that tell about your wife?
Mhm.
I wonder. That she fell for you despite your affection for stamps.
I have one of these blue ones. That's why she took me.
Mm.
Okay, that's cute. This one is located in Port
And
Louis.
you know how much that thing is worth. I doubt that you have it because otherwise you wouldn't be working for IBS.
Of
You wouldn't
course,
need to work.
Definitely not.
I don't think
It's
so.
such a great company, and for me, it's fun every day. So that's why I do it. I'm not doing it for the
So
money.
you don't work for the money. Okay, I get
No.
it.
I'm just working for the show.
Okay.
Do you work for the postage?
And what was the story again with the blue one? Is this is it a wrong print or what is why is it so rare?
No, they are both equally rare. They are the part of the same collection. Just let me look up. I looked up the event, but I'm sorry, I kind of misplaced it. My Mauritian friends would not be really happy now. So
There were only 512 still exist, and the worth is around 1 million euros.
Wow.
there you go. So it was printed in 1840, and the first one printed was this one for 2 pennies. Then they added the orange one. But I'm still missing. There was an event why it was
But by the way,
printed.
it is Queen Victoria actually who's shown there. So it's an English queen.
Yes, because Mauritius was a colony for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was governed by first Dutch, then French, and at the end English. And this is also a really interesting thing because you can see the marking on all of them throughout the island. It's quite surprising sometimes because you can feel like you are in France, and 2 steps after you can feel like you are in Netherlands, and a couple of steps after you find yourself looking at the building that looks like it's from UK.
But
Really,
But they're two different women. The nose is totally different of these two women.
yeah.
But the official language is French in Mauritius, is it?
Official language is English.
Is it? Okay. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought
They
it was.
all speak French, and commonly they will speak French to you. But it's again, my boss who is French is complaining that they are not speaking correct French. That is kind of broken. Creole is the main language for most of them, and again, they all speak English and French, or if we call it Fringlish with some funny accent, both of them. But they are very hospitable, and it's really easy
Marco,
to
what was
understand
that?
them.
What are you showing there?
He's showing just the place where each country are, and he is going to show you some basic details about 2 countries.
Money.
Yes, so just in case that you missed the flags so far, you can see the latest official flag and the coat of arms, and on both sides. So on Mauritian you can see a dodo bird and a deer. On Montenegrin you can see a lion and this lovely 2-headed hawk. And then you can see the area of both countries. And I'm not thinking that I'm coming from too big of a country, because Montenegro is small, but it is in the middle of the continent, so it kind of compensates. And as you can see, it's 6 times bigger than Mauritius. So for me, the funny feeling was learning that you can drive end to end on the island for maybe about 2 hours, virtually from south to north, and then you see the sea on both sides, and you are wondering, okay, now what? It really feels kind of small. In terms of population, it's far more densely inhabited than Montenegro. We have a lot of mountains, so people are concentrated in maybe 17 cities. But in a mountain area nobody lives, so density is about 45 people per square kilometer, where in Mauritius you have whooping 600 of people per square mile. So it's really dense. Completely different feeling for someone who's used to more space. On these 2 charts, you can see percentage of different religions. And for me, this is showing another thing that is rather common in both countries. So you have a variety of ethnic communities, with one which is in majority. But they all have kind of different habits, different way of doing things, different mindsets. And in both countries, we managed to find a fine balance living together. So another last point is a kind of difference between the countries. Mauritius is one of the rare countries that has never been in war. Mauritius was founded in 1968, and Montenegro on the other side has participated pretty much every war in Europe. So it's a completely different background, and this causes completely different attitude towards life, I would say. In Mauritius, they are all very friendly, very easygoing, very kind of relaxed. In Montenegro, we are hospitable, we are very friendly, we are funny, but relaxed, not so much, not the way they are. But on the other side, it's also an island way of life. So these are not the things that you can necessarily compare. And that's a kind of one of the things that I noticed the difference between the 2. And then we're gonna go on the next slide. So this was enough. Okay, sorry. So you are only on a history right now. And yes, there was another effect over there that I skipped saying. So something also that I learned when I moved to Mauritius. In Montenegro, since people were living through history in the same places, we kind of know all our ancestors and all our origin. So you will rarely find a family that does not have family tree on, we would say, all 4 pillars, meaning family of your grandparents with all of your relatives stated. So you virtually can find who is relative among these 600,000 people to you and how you are related. And we all know each other. We all know who's, I don't know, friends in marriage, etc. In Mauritius.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What are these different dishes? What is that dish with? Is that plucked lentils or something?
No, it's a dal puri. So I'll just come back to that
Yeah,
because
okay.
I was just saying the same thing in Mauritius, since they had different history, and there was slavery and people coming from all around the world, and maybe escaping some of they are doing somewhere else. For them, they sometimes even don't know the history beyond their grandparents. For me, that was quite a fascinating thing to be honest, to learn. And I'm going to stop about I don't know, history and the basics and go to food, because everybody's interested in the food here.
By the way, Ladenka, I'm here reading love to eat, majority rather would not cook. If we are asking you to participate in our upcoming cooking event, would you attend?
Yes, I do like to cook, but I'm an exception.
Very good. Okay, so Christian,
Oh.
you know how to invite, yeah?
Yeah.
And which country in the former Yugoslav republics would do the best cevapis?
I'll say we would. I bet Zoran will tell you they would. But why limit yourself to ex-Yugoslavia? Why don't you ask for Romanians? They are really good at it. Bulgarians as well. Turkey. all of us.
Turkey, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. The reason why cevapi is there is because it's a fast food in Montenegro, the same way like this kind of yellow pancake with curry that you see on Mauritian side. This is called dalpuri. It's typical Mauritian thing. You don't get the dalpuri anywhere else but there, and I think in Zimbabwe, what they told me. So it's virtually a pancake made with lentils, and they put usually vegetarian curry in it. So each joint has its own recipe for curry, and it's really, really tasty everywhere. It's a street food. It's a fast food that you would buy in Mauritius, and cevapi on side of Montenegro belongs to that kind of category food. So you can see quite easily that we are more meat eaters than we appreciate vegetables. So then, apart from this, on Mauritius side, next to Dalpuri is Farata, and you can go back because I'm gonna talk about food a little bit more. And this is a kind of similar thing to Indian naan, again, kind of street food. Then you have lebulet, something like dim sum but with Mauritian twist. And the last one is bol ranverse, which is Chinese dish. And this is why I'm stating here, for Mauritians really take out the kitchen of other nations, or the nations that I mentioned that live there, and they adapt it. So you can end up with some delicious meals that are called Mauritian, that have origin from somewhere else, but they adapted it to the point that they can call it their own, and they are good at it. So why I say spicy, a lot of Indian foods, Mauritius is referred to be a little India because of majority of Hindu population living there. On Montenegrin side, we don't do too much spices. Our food tends to be simple. We use very few ingredients, and you have different type of foods depending in which part of the country you would go. So in seaside resort, you're gonna get some fish, some risotto. Sorry, Marco, we are really good at it. So yes, you are Italian, but we can do good risotto as well.
Is that a black risotto up there?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
So are they using the ink of how do you call it? Sepia.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. It's really typical. So in seaside part of Montenegro, this is a dish definitely that you should taste, because they usually make it with the daily catch of a fish. So always fresh fish, and also it needs to be accompanied with some fish soup. Again, you can see the ingredients there. They're fairly simple, and this is typical what we use in our food. We also make good ham and good cheeses, slightly different from the rest of the Europe because our cheeses are more kind of cottage type. the taste of it depends really where the animal is and what kind of greens it eats.
Oh, it's
So
more sheep and how do you call them? Goat then.
there
Or
are all
cows.
of them, and we mix them. So you can find some with pure cow's milk. You can find mixture with sheep and cow.
Okay.
Goat cheese is usually on its own because it has a specific taste, so
course.
it's kind of differently prepared. But again, it's a variety, and you won't have the same taste when you try different cheeses. So it's really up to you to find something that that you like in that variety available. As I said, we do cured meat. We do that with pork. We do that with sheep as well. And this is something which is typical Montenegrin. Normally, the rest of Yugoslavia is not doing it. And even if they do it, they don't do it that well, that's for sure, because of the climate mostly. So we would prepare sheep meats in a similar process like you would cure pork ham. And this is a local delicacy, really. You can't find it but in a certain period of the year, and there's not too much quantity of it, but it is really, really delicious.
Is that
In
a
yeah.
personal opinion, or is that an opinion that is adopted outside of Montenegro as well?
No, it's opinion outside of Montenegro. So it's a funny fact for you. I actually had a friend who tasted some of it maybe 20 years ago and then asked me to bring it. So in one of last meetings that I attended live with the client in Serbia, I brought with me the whole leg lamb to give to him.
Oh wow!
Because he asked me to actually bring one. And yes, it's how can I put it? You need to have a taste for it. Not everybody likes it. I can be completely honest about it, but it has a specific taste, and if you like it, you will really, really like it. And it's not like something that you tasted anywhere else. It completely kind of has the taste of its own. Other than that, you can. Yeah.
I'm suspicion that our friend MG in Johannesburg would like it as well, because he keeps ranting and raving about his biltong made from game. So I could imagine that he would be up for some cured sheep meat.
I think so. I did taste some biltong from South Africa in Mauritius. For me, it was like so okay. But yeah, I think he would be a good candidate. If you do have an option, I mean, if you come anywhere nearby or have an opportunity to taste it, you should, because it should be a different experience.
When did you bring that leg of lamb to Serbia?
In March.
In March. So I'm sure that next time I go meet Air Serbia, there's still some left of it.
In Serbia, you won't find it. They don't do it. It's
No,
really
but I'm sure you gave it to somebody in Air Serbia, and if I go and visit Air Serbia next, then I'll just ask them.
No, actually, I didn't. Guys from Mayata.
Okay.
Oh,
He's
did you
in
give it
Madrid.
to Zarazan?
No, I gave it to Dusan Kostic, if you know Dusan Kostic.
I know Dusan Kostic really well. You can send him my regards.
I will. Dusan is a really, really long time friend of mine. Yeah.
And he can send you cured sheep
Okay.
in return for regards.
He's based now, but is he back? He was quite some time actually in Madrid.
He is in Madrid.
He is in Madrid. Okay.
But I doubt that you would find any cured meat anymore, because he was, of course, locked up. Can you go back again, Daniel, to previous slide? And the reason for that is this traditional meal that almost skip by without any comments. It's called kaçamak. You can see it in your left down corner. It's made out of potatoes, corn flour, cheese, and something that we called kaymak, which is virtually when you skim milk of the fat on top of it, you make that kaymak with it. This is really something that is typical for Montenegro, really good, even if it looks completely crazy. And I know usual reaction of my foreign friends when I take them to taste that. They are not so happy when they see it, but usually they eat it all at the end, and usually ask me to bring some more. So here's some part of, let's say, typical Montenegrin food. and Marco is gone, so I'm going to say it out loud. We do like Italian food. There's a lot of influence, so that's probably the most liked food by Montenegrins, but we do it our own way, just like Mauritians does. So you will get a really good pizza with a ketchup aside, which is a big no-no from Italian. But on our side, yes, we like ketchup on the pizza, but you can do it on your own as per own your liking. So Marco, no worries, you're gonna get a good Italian pizza in Montenegro without ketchup.
With ketchup.
Without.
Ah,
I say
you said
ketchup,
you said you do it with ketchup.
I said we like it with ketchup, but it comes separately from pizza, so you put all you want on your own.
No wonder you've had so many wars. Ketchup. Please.
I knew that it was going to be your reaction, typical Italian reaction on pizza.
I can tell you, it's not only for Italians. Here in São Paulo, it's something really that we don't want to see. It's like ketchup and pizza that doesn't fit, you know. So it's very common in São Paulo. When we see someone doing that, we say, "Oh, are you from Rio, right?" Rio de Janeiro. Rio, they have pizza and ketchup, but in São Paulo, never.
No, the thing is, on pizza itself, you won't get too much, and it's not really a ketchup, it's a tomato sauce. So every pizza place here have their own secret recipe, as they call it. So I'm not thinking really take, I don't know, Heinz or whatever ketchup you have from the bottle and put it there. You really mean tomato passata with some spices or whatever it is that they do. So there will be some on pizza, but not a lot. And they will bring you a separate bowl with it. If you want to drown your pizza in it, you are welcome to do it. And by the way, Montenegrins will do it. But as I said, we learned from many other foreigners that they don't quite appreciate the activity. So they can choose. If they want, they can have it. If they don't need to. So yeah, that's it. I'm done with the food unless anybody else additional questions.
I've just seen something. Hey, Marco, because we were about James Bond before. Is that Ursula Andres on your wall, actually, out of Dr. No?
Oh, you mean?
It is.
Yes.
It is. So another James Bond fan.
No, it's not so much James. It's not so much James Bond. It's the artist.
Ah, okay.
And the image in the picture that I like. It's not because of James Bond. It's because of
Ursula Andres. I know.
So this slide will present you with some insider tips on both sides. And first one is if you intend to drive and you are kind of going to be bound to drive in both countries when you arrive. So in Montenegro, we drive like the rest of the Europe on the right side and Mauritius is on the left side. This makes really fun task for me because sometimes when I do travel between Reunion and Mauritius, I tend to switch sides every week. And the behavior of people when they are driving, if you can click on the next thing so that the thing will appear, is that both Mauritians and Montenegrin despise traffic regulation. So don't be surprised about nobody following up speed limits or stopping for the pedestrians to pass or honking a lot, driving completely crazy. That's kind of typical things in both countries.
On the other side, some roots in Montenegro and Mauritius.
Definitely. On the other side, Montenegrins are.
India, Daniel.
Yeah. Not that bad in either of the countries. I think I would be afraid to drive in India. But it can be a scary experience in both of these countries. In Montenegro, we are used to drive in mountains. In Mauritius, they are not. For me, it's always funny because they are all stressed with the curvy roads. So what can you expect when you are invited by friends in Montenegro? So I'm not joking. This goes on the food. So our habit is to prepare far more food when we invite friends than they potentially could eat for a couple of days at least. So the habit, local habit in Montenegro is that as a host, you need to have more food than your guest can eat, and you need to make them to try to eat it all. So when you invite you to Montenegro, bear in mind to come hungry for dinner because you will eat a lot. In Mauritius, as I said, they don't like to cook, and the first experience that you will probably get, they will introduce you to the bunch of street food vendors, which means you're going to get accustomed to their own local food. And don't mind it, it's a delicious experience. So you can be a bit wary about the street foods and the conditions that it is made in. But from my own experience, if you get the tour by the local, you will end up being treated very, very well. So getting introduced. In Montenegro, we normally would shake hands and keep the distance, be quite polite. In Mauritius, shake hands or kiss, depending on the community. If you are French, it's a kissing straight on from the first sight, and then it's kissing every next time. For me, that was kind of really interesting adjustment to make, because in Montenegro, again, you kiss only people that you really like or that you are close with. Next one. So doing business. In Montenegro, you need to be on time. We'll be late, so don't be surprised. But still, it's considered not to be polite if you come to the meeting later than the host. Raki is a national drink. It's a kind of brandy made out of the grapes. So you won't do any business unless you can drink some rakia. And these are just the small points. Do not point fingers, do not turn your back, do not whisper. All of these are considered to be rude behavior. In Mauritius, it's, as I said, easygoing culture. Whatever you ask to be done, we'll make it happen. You just need to be very sure to ask when and at what cost, because that can surprise you. They are always polite, so you can ask all kind of things or do all kind of things. You will never be able to break their politeness and hospitality. And the good thing is they are really, really passionate about their works. They try to reach their potential at all times, and they really put themselves into it. Politics. Yeah, in Montenegro, I would tell you just don't go there because it's way, way too complicated. Even if we have the same ruling party for last 30 years, it's complicated how things got there. And in Mauritius, since I witnessed one of the elections last year, the most common comment that I heard from my friends was it could get worse. So they believe that they should keep the same party so that they would kind of behave or not have an interest to first act in their own interest because they already did it. Queues. So in Montenegro, not too much respect for them. Don't be surprised if you are in a queue that you get past. Nobody will complain about it. In Mauritius, English left their own queuing methods. So yes, they will all queue really, really patiently. Patriotism, cool. So we are really sensitive in Montenegro. If somebody gets to criticize our country, we will do it on our own with you, no issue. But we won't allow you to do any bad critics. And on Mauritian side, again, back to their really polite character. They will listen to you. They won't react. They will have their own thoughts, but they won't confront you about it. Very passionate about their country as well. I pulled this one up for one reason. There's a lot of talk nowadays because of all the things that are going on in US, and actually people react differently. So in case if you are in Montenegro, note that we don't have it in our agenda, meaning it's not something that it is common, it's not how we behave. But on the other side, as a country, we were in close for a long time, so we are curious, and we will stare at foreign people or people of different race, but only out of curiosity, and we like to talk to foreigners. And I noticed that it's exactly the same in Mauritius, being that I'm quite outstanding for the rest of them, tall and blonde, and they are kind of short and dark. I get that a lot over there, but it was never a bad experience, meaning it was always for curiosity or just chit-chatting. And at the other side, when it comes to character, when I was writing this, I remember Jan and his presentation of Netherlands, and he was saying that they are really straight people. And at that moment, I was thinking, yeah, you just explained me why am I really good making friends from people coming from Netherlands. We are exactly the same. We don't sugarcoat. We are completely direct. And we will tell you what we feel at that moment, even if you may find it too direct or even to the borderline rude. But it's just how we are, and this is the way how we are building trust between the people. Because if you don't hide anything, you are kind of building of your trustworthiness. On the other side, in Mauritius, they will avoid confrontation at any cost, which means a lot of sugarcoating. If you need to give any kind of bad feedback to them, you can't do my way, that's for sure. It needs to be nicely wrapped and packed with all the bow on top of it. And I kind of learned it, let's say, harder way. But again, it's their culture, and I'm quite appreciative of it. And it's interesting also to be surrounding with people that are kind of different from you. And there is the last one. There are some things that we of course share. Both nations are very proud and self-confident. We are both very hospitable and generous. And on both sides, many of us are quite lazy. So this is a topic that also comes up a lot. With me, at least when I'm in Mauritius, because there's always a kind of discussion who's lazier, Montenegrins or Mauritians. I claim that we are, and I think that we are taking it home because we have even our 10 commandments related to it, which is not something that Mauritius has done. And maybe, Daniel, you can show it so the rest of you can read it. And tell me, of course, which one do you like the most?
Hey, I need that. I need that. I'm gonna use that as my status on WhatsApp and everywhere else.
Which one?
Which one? Oh, come on, don't be shy. You should
Rest
comment.
during the day so that you can sleep at night. That's beautiful.
You take the number 1.
No, number 6 is cool. Recalls me some of people I know.
Oh.
Makes
That's
sense?
my.
Makes sense?
Yep. That's my excuse for delegating too much from time to time. So we had an internal joke on it when one of my colleagues was telling that my number 6 was my technical project manager, because of course at some occasions whenever I got the chance I would convey the work to him when it was borderlining technical. So, and I was telling him, sorry, number 6 I'm Montenegrin. Find another one. But on the other side, I was kind of recuperating to him because I would make a lot of food and drink, so no issue. We can kind of do it. This is just another list that you might not think immediately that you could do the similar activities in both countries, but yet you can. Bird watching, if you are a lover of nature, there are some endemic species in both countries. Pelicans are the one in Montenegro, and we have some specific type of flamingos that reside in one of salines on our side. And in Mauritius, it's far more diverse. So I like the birds there. There's plenty of them. They are colorful. They sing, and it's really nice. Kite surfing. So you can do it in Montenegro. Our Long Beach is also in one of the quite famous spots. I would say it's more for beginners because the surrounding and everything is really fit for the purpose if you want to learn. It's warm enough. There's always wind. The wind is not too strong. And again, if you are professional and if you want to do it in more serious level, go to Mauritius, go to Kite Lagoon, because it's really exceptional place even to see. Hiking, why not? Montenegro has plenty of the mountains. I stated it's a mountain country. You see some of the views, and believe me, it's worth of the pain to go and climb some of them, even if they are a couple of thousand meters high. In Mauritius, I'm joking usually with them that they don't have mountains, that they have hills, but it's still worthwhile to climb some of them because of the views again, and it's completely different experience. Not the same complexity, but again, a nice reward. Beach. In Montenegro, you can find different beaches, pebbly ones, again, sandy ones. They are completely different to the tropical island ones, of course. But still, sometimes it's interesting to be at the beach and see the old city in behind the view and some activities going on. Again, completely different experience than in Mauritius, where you really can enjoy and disconnect yourself because nothing will disturb you there. Snorkeling is also on the list on both sides. In Montenegro, in Mauritius, it's because, of course, a variety of the tropical fishes that you can see there. And in Montenegro, it's not that colorful, but we do have several shipwrecks that make a nice challenge to do. So that's pretty much it, I would say. COVID, of course, the thing that brought us all together so that we can meet more virtually like this, because otherwise, if it was business as usual, I would not be having a chance to meet you all. And for this part, it's really silver lining. So what happened when COVID came? Both Mauritius and Montenegro were really among the last countries to report that they have cases, and it was a day apart. So in Montenegro it was on 17 March, on Mauritius it was on 18 March. For me it was quite fascinating. The approach was exactly the same. Prime Minister on TV giving us an update in both countries. I'm not sure for the speech of Mauritian one, to be honest, he was speaking in Creole, so I didn't understand all very well. In Montenegro, we started earlier with the measures, mostly because we were not sure that our health system will be capable of sustaining larger number of infected people. So with some measures were in place also from 5th of March. And then as from 24th of March, we were advised to stay at home. It wasn't a complete lockdown. We could still go out without specific permits, but we were all advised not to do it unless you go for grocery shopping or go to pharmacy. Most of companies advise the people to stay at home and work from home, but some continued again to work. At the end, it was pretty much complete lockdown of economy, which we will probably have to deal with in a longer term. In Mauritius, due to that density of inhabitants and also a health system that they pretty much were thinking whether it can sustain harder pressure or not, they announced the complete lockdown on 20th of March. They went so severe that they closed even the supermarkets for about 10 days. So everything was completely locked. And then they devised the plan for people to be able to go grocery shopping twice a week according to alphabetical order and in a predefined supermarket. Again, contrary to expectation, both countries really kept a low number of cases. So in Montenegro, up till last week, it was about 321. In Mauritius, it was 337. Mauritius now did not have any new reported cases for about 10 days. I think they are COVID-free as well. We were COVID-free until last week, and last week we got it imported again because of some people not really taking care about the measures that were prescribed by the government. So I don't know how it happened for the rest of you. I mean, you live in much bigger countries and there's a lot of traveling around. In Montenegro, in both cases, when it came to this infections, it's really an importation from another country. First time there was a group of people who decided to disobey advice of the government not to travel to Spain for 8th of March. Women's Day and a big kind of thing in Montenegro. So a lot of people are celebrating, and usually men are taking their wives for trips. So let's say one of the groups disobeyed and decided to still go to Spain in the middle of high peak over there, and of course imported the virus. And this is how it really started, because all other infections came from that group. And what happened a week ago was pretty much the same, because for the moment the border between Montenegro and Serbia is closed, because Serbia has much worse situation with COVID than we do. So officially we are not allowed to travel to Serbia, but our borders to Bosnia were open. So there were some people who were really in a need to watch football game that went from Montenegro to Serbia via Bosnia. And of course imported it back. Unfortunately, they also made quite a few of contacts, and for the moment, yes, we do have some registered cases due to this event. This is also stating a lot about our mentality. We are not very good at following the rules, and we like to bend them. So this is why I say we kind of messed up both times, because with the traffic that we are getting, we would probably sustain much longer not to have infections. In Mauritius, it was kind of similar. It was also imported by a local guy who traveled from UK to Mauritius, came back and reported sick on 10th day, and of course had a lot of contacts in the meanwhile. So the severe measures were put in place because, as I stated, the density of travel of people living in Mauritius, and to contain it as soon as possible. Mauritius also decided to keep their borders closed, so you can't fly there now. And for what I've been told so far, there are no plans to open them before September. And they can do it quite easily because it's winter time now, so it's not the high touristical season. The tourist season will start in September or October. In Montenegro, it's exactly the opposite, so it's summer season. It's still safe. We still don't have too many cases reported, so we are still open for tourists, and we are not considered to be a high-risk destination in case if any of you Europeans did not know where to go for vacation this year and want to go somewhere. For you guys, I mean, you are Erica, you are in Brazil, more than welcome. I would like to see you in Montenegro, but I don't think it's viable right now. And I believe it's the same for you, Anoja.
I think I should plan Bladanga because I stay in Germany. So
Then you should plan. You should plan. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure where you are staying. If you are in Germany, then plan it.
And the
It will be
currency is
simple.
euro itself, right? It's a
Yes.
state, if I understand it correctly. And how about the public transport?
Yeah, we do have it, but it depends what you want to do, because the cities are small, so you can walk around. There's no problem there. If you want to see some of these lovely places in nature, then you should rent a car, and it's fairly cheap here, so it's easy to find a way. There aren't too many different roads, so you won't get lost. It's almost impossible to do that here, and you still get to see a really lovely nature. If you do decide, do let me know, because I'm in Montenegro. I'm not in Mauritius. I stayed in Montenegro, so I would be glad to show you around.
So you are the native of Montenegro and you work in Mauritius, or it's the
Yes.
other way?
I am a native of Montenegro and I live and work in Mauritius.
Okay.
Ordinarily.
Because I was trying to find the relation between the two countries. I was thinking, is it the same administration? I could not find anything. So I was
They both start with the letter M.
yeah, good shot. Mauritius, I have heard a lot because I think starting from 1980s onwards, there are a lot of Bollywood movies, but a lot of Indian movies. The shooting is there in Mauritius, so Mauritius is very famous in India also. But Montenegro is new chapter for me, so it was absolutely beautiful, wonderful presentation.
Oh, come on, no ketchup, Marcus, seriously.
So I think a really awesome presentation. What I like very much, because it's another premiere we have here, is it's the first time that we get in one session 2 countries presented.
Absolutely.
I like very much, and especially also the comparison of both, because I think that's making it very special. And I'm really amazed. So thank you for that, and I hope other colleagues and audience were also learning something, and either now go to Montenegro or go to Mauritius.
Montenegro first.
Since I've been to Mauritius twice with my wife, it'll be Montenegro for me.
Okay, so then let's go there together. Maybe instead
So I have to go to Mauritius when possible.
Mladenka,
They're
the one thing
wonderful.
that I'm curious about is there a bigger Montenegrin heart beating in your chest, or is there also a Mauritian heart?
Yeah, you're gonna come to, or somebody would come to that question. Home is Montenegro, but Mauritius is a second home also, because for me it's more about the friendship and the connection that you make, and I was lucky.
Okay. Okay, but do you want to spend the rest of your life in Mauritius or in Montenegro?
No, I don't.
If you had to choose.
If I had to choose, I don't think I would stay in Mauritius, but only for the fact that it is way too far away. So
Italian pizza or Montenegrin pizza?
Italian for me.
Actually, I'm eating Albanian pizza right now. Sorry.
I need to leave. Thank you so much, Mladenka, and thank you so much, guys. Talk to you next time. Yeah, I need to leave now.
I love the presentation, Lenka. Thank you for sharing.
Vala, thank you so much, Vala.
Thank you. Oh, hvala. So you know some words from the language. That's nice, Marco.
Yeah, moj mobilski broj je 0172 65 8 90210.
Odlično. That's great.
But you can also ask Romain, because I'm not sure I got the numbers right. But Romain also has my mobile number.
I will ask him. That's for sure. That's good. Okay.
So I'm looking very much forward to tomorrow's Virtual Ops 2020 season first session and the expert talk, Mladenka. Looking forward to having you with us. And then, yeah, please also select the next slots for the Virtual Happy Hour 1.0. And I think Christian is already preparing Virtual Happy Hour 5.0, another cooking event. And I think you're also a candidate to support him on that.
Yeah, why not? That's perfect. So thank you, guys. I think the whole idea that you did with this virtual happy hour was great. Thanks for that. I really enjoyed version 1 and this one as well, and I'm happy if you like the presentation as you say you did, and if I managed to share some information that maybe ordinarily you would not get.
Thank you very much and have a nice evening.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.